good. Can you hear me? Hello, everyone. Welcome to LLK number 72. That is Knit with Laura and Lola. I'm Laura Nelkin. I'm a knitwear designer. I live in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes region, and I am joined by my alter ego, Lola. Lola and her husband, because Max shares me and Lola, it's crazy around here. We're just laughing really hard because I am wearing my Festy Vest, which I'm going to tell you more about. And he thinks that he wants to call it the disco ball because if I spin around like this, I'm basically a disco ball, right? And so we were cracking up and now I'm dizzy. Okay, I'm back. We're here. For those of you who've never watched a live with me before, you are in for a treat. I do lives about once a month or as the spirit moves me, probably no more than 10 in a year. And this is the last live for 2025. So I decorated with all of my holiday decorations because we don't do a lot of holiday decorating besides fun things with lights around here. And so excited to spend the evening with you all. I have so much to share with you. But before we get going, I want to do just a little bit of housekeeping with you. I have the chat thread going over here to my right. And if you ask a question about something that I'm talking about, at the end of the live, I'm going to give an opportunity to say, do you have any questions? And then you can put them into the chat and I'll look over and read them. But I try not to read the chat a ton while I'm doing the live because I think it's really obnoxious for people who are watching this later to have to be like, what is she responding to? They might not have that chat up and be looking at it as they're watching. So I try to just keep that in mind that some of you are super lucky and you're getting to watch live and chat away in the chat box, and others of you are watching later. So those of you who are watching live, if you want to chime in and say where you are watching from, you might find that you have a neighbor down the street watching as well, which is always a blast. I've seen people make friendships over lives and realize they could like have a knitting group locally just from somebody that they met in the chat group. So I'll have a tiny bit of an eye on the chat just to make sure we're not having a tech problem or a sound problem or something like that. But otherwise, I'll ask you if you have questions later. At the end of the live, I have a whole list of links of everything that I've talked about, and I will put those below the video. So if you come back in like a half hour or 45 minutes after the live is over, all of those links will be there for you, but they won't be there right away because I can't put them up while I'm doing this. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So 72nd live, last live of 2025. I looked today and I designed 25 patterns in 2025, which is like a little bit of a Hakuna Matata moment, right? I feel like that's a little bit of a lie because the last 3 patterns that went up yesterday, which is the Inch of the Hoods, Balaclava, and Dicky, and Scarf, were all iterations of Into the Hoods. So I think you could say I actually designed 22 patterns, but we're just going to go with 25 and 25 if that sounds good to you. So I see everybody saying hi. I love seeing that so much. I have a tip of my tea a sip of my tea, a tipple of my tea, just to wet my whistle. So in tonight's live, we are going to talk about Festy Vest, which I am wearing. We are going to talk about Into the Hoods and kind of the wrap up of Into the Hoods. And I'm going to show you how I integrated a balaclava into the Dicky pattern in case you want to have a face covering. And I've got some photos of that to show you. And then I'm going to show you the techniques underneath the camera so that if you're somebody who's wanting to add that to your Dicky or Into the Hoods Dicky, you'll be able to do that. I'm going to do that pretty quickly into this live after we talk about Festy Vest, just because I know some of you are going to want to find it later. I think I'll also timestamp it below this video when we're done, so it's easy to find for people who want that tutorial. It's something, one of the things I love about Mystery Knit-alongs is I get ideas from you all, and I want to end up like adding in things and doing new things, so that's a piece off of that. Y'all always ask me what I'm wearing, so I'm going to start with that. Did I mention I'm wearing disco ball vest or Festy Vest? Festy Vest is actually a version of a pattern that I released in 2020 called Tasca Worsted, and it's the cropped version. So if I stand up, you will see that it comes to right about here with my jeans, and it's got side panels. So it's knit in the Novus construction side to side. And what I didn't do is I didn't add pockets, which Tasca has little pockets on the side. I have some photos of Tasca to show you what Tasca looks like in case you don't remember it. I actually wear my Tasca, this black one, it's knit in Snefnug. I wear it a lot in the winter. In fact, I was wearing it today. I was not wearing my Festy Vest all day. And there is, sorry, here's another one. You can see that little pocket on the side that's in front of a mural in my hometown. And then there's another view of it, just so you can see. It's got a lovely mitered neckline, which is actually a little bit easier to see in the sequin yarn. I knit my Festy Vest with the same yarn that Lola's Choice members got. I knit it with Blingola, which is right here, and it's held together with Pasquale Puno, which is an organic cotton and alpaca blend, and they make a beautiful fabric together. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Blingola. I feel like those of you who are in Lola's Choice or are interested in maybe knitting a Festy Vest or one of the other Blingola patterns, it would be fun to tell you the background story of the sequin yarn, which I did not do because I launched that Lola's Choice kit and then I ran off to Spain with a group. So I didn't really have time to do that, like the story of Blingola. So I'm excited to do that with you all. The other thing that I'm wearing is an answer that I just finished, and the answer is knit tip to tip. It was also a Lola's Choice pattern from, I believe, last May. And this answer does not have any beads. I knit it with a cashmere lace weight held together with a silk and linen lace weight. And actually, if I hold it, move that out of the way. If I hold it underneath the camera, you can really appreciate how gorgeous these two yarns are together. I think that the cashmere was like a small ball that I got when I was in the Faroe Islands. It was by Lang Yarns. And then the silk linen maybe was like from Diana Dye, and I had gotten one skein from her years ago that was like in my deep lace weight stash. And I realized if I held them together, they would be like really luminous and beautiful. And you can just see that kind of gentle hand-dyed bit. So I wanted to show this to you all because I wanted you to see how great the answer is knit with any yarn in your stash. It doesn't need to be that beaded yarn that we used in the sorry, it wasn't beaded yarn, but we added beads to it, the Katia yarn, which is really gorgeous. So that's my answer. I actually have been knitting it. I think I started it at some point this summer, and I finished it when I was in Florida last week. I brought a lot of finishing with me to Florida, and I got it all done, which was great. So let's jump right in. I think I have a very long list. I think we should jump right in with Into the Hoods. So if you don't know what Into the Hoods is, Into the Hoods was 2025's mystery knit along. We had a knitting adventure, a mystery knitting adventure where you all knit one of 6 versions of a hood. There were 4 clues. The first 2 clues were the same for everybody. And then clues 3 and 4 are where our trails diverged. You were either knitting a balaclava, a dicky, or a hooded scarf. And those were all had a 1 color and 2 color option. I am not allowed to do a project like that again. That was insane. Super fun. Y'all had a great time. I had a great time, but I spent the majority of this week just editing the photos for the 7 patterns so that you could see all of my versions. It takes like a good hour-ish or more for every like project that went to release just to do the photos and have that all together and get them ready for like Ravelry and Etsy and my website, yada, yada, socials. So 7, that's a lot. and I'm thrilled with how the photos came out. I'm gonna kind of pull them up. So this is the Balaclava version. That is the two color version on the sides and the one color version in the center. The one color version is very hard to show because it's knit in Harrisville nightshades, which is like a super, super, super dark green, almost black. It's more like black with a tiny bit of green to it. And then the two color version is spin cycle held together with Farmer's Daughter's fibers. All of these hoods that I'm showing you are up on Ravelry. They are linked to the patterns. They have all of the yarn information in there. So if you're wondering like what color is that, that's all up on Ravelry because I'll get it wrong if I try to tell you here. So that's the Balaclava version. And then this is the Dicky version, which I'm calling my BDE for Balaclava Dicky Energy, because the Dicky version goes over your shoulders so it can fit in under a coat and it has this nice, like, lovely yoke. And then I added in a balaclava to cover my face on the inside. And I used Lola's two timing technique for that. And I'm going to show you how to do that on my needles today. The other thing some of you are going to notice as you are looking at this version of the Dicky is that it's single color, but it has bush stitches. I really wanted to try, someone brought up in the Ravelry group, like, what would it look like if I did single color, but I did all of like the two color bush stitches. So this version is actually the two color version without changing yarns. And I really love the texture of it. I would say that these yarns I held together was an alpaca, Surrey alpaca silk and wool, lamb's wool. And I would say that the floofiness of the alpaca silk kind of like covers up that bush stitch a little bit. I'll show you under the camera as well. This is other versions of the Dicky. On one side, that green one is Knit in Wool Dreamers Mota. That's the single color Dicky. And then the Dicky, how many times can I say Dicky in this video? The Dicky on the other side is my two color, and that is Knit in Utopia Fibers and Yarn Hero. And then this is the scarf versions of my Into the Hoods. I did the two color version in Kelborn Woolen Scout and some Junction Fiber Mill that I had in stash. And then that middle one is knit in Fiber MacGyver, Surrey Alpaca and Forest Floor, held together with some Sweet Georgia and like this lovely chocolatey brown. So those are my 7 hoods, and I knit them all. I had a little bit of help with like clues 1 and 2 on 2 of them, but the rest of them I knit from start to finish. The Dicky with the balaclava I knit while I was in Spain. That was my Spain project to get that one done in time for photography when I got back. Really fun. Let me pull it up actually. I've got it right here. I have so much stuff around me to show you that I have a basket to throw it all into when I'm done. So this is the Dicky with the integrated balaclava. And I'm just going to kind of do this. Let's see if we can do it underneath the camera if you can see it. I think you can. So one, you can see the bush stitch right there. And you can see that in these 2 yarns, it's a little lost, but it's actually, I think, really nice texture to have. So you could knit the 1 color Dicky for the hood for clues 1 and 2, which is what I did. And then when I got to clue 3, I just made sure my stitch count worked for the 2 color version, and I switched over to the 2 color, but I only used 1 color. And you definitely want to make sure you have maybe a little bit more yarn for that, because the bush stitch uses up a little bit more yarn. And then if you look on the inside right here, let me see if I can like fold that out so I can show it to you. You can see that I integrated in that balaclava to the inside right there of the Dicky. And I used the cowl portion of the pattern from the balaclava to work up right there in the knit one, purl one below. It's a half fisherman's rib. And then I switched over to the ribbing for the top. What is kind of important for doing this is you need to make sure that that internal sleeve fits over your head well. But if it's too loose, then it's going to fall down off of your nose as you're wearing it. So you want it like just tight enough to get around there, but not so tight that you're like jamming it over your head. And you also want to be able to push it down and not have it over your face when you get warm. Because this thing, I wore it hiking the other day and it was actually really nice. I wore it for my morning walk. And as I was started out super cold, I had it all up. As I warm up and we start going uphill, I just like dropped the face covering. I dropped the hood down my back. My jacket doesn't have a hood, so it ends up like making a hooded jacket, and it ended up being a perfect weight. I would say one thing with these is I do sometimes wear a headband as well underneath them, especially if I know I'm going to be dropping it just to keep my ears warm, or if it's like super windy where you are. Sometimes adding in a headband before you go to put this on is like just that little extra added touch that you might need. So, I want to show you how to do this under the camera. Does that sound good to everybody? I'm kind of looking over at the chat. Things seem like they're going well. Um, Someone wants to know if the BDE would be good in Snefnug. I know I said I wouldn't read the chat, but I just did. So sure, I don't see why not. It would be a little heavy over your mouth. Like you could do the whole thing in Snefnug and then maybe do that internal fabric in a lighter weight yarn, but I think it would be fine in Snefnug. That stuff is like light as air. I was actually looking, I just got some yarn from Miss Babs when I was at Rhinebeck that I was like, could I make another BDE? Because I love this one, but it's a pale color for me. And as the winter progresses, I'm worried that I might look a little dead in it because I get quite pale as we have less and less sun right now. So it's possible that I'll make an eighth hood. And my aunt actually messaged me the other day to be like, could there be a hood fairy in my life? So I think one of those 7 hoods is going to go onto her at some point. I just have to make sure I don't need them for like photography or measuring or anything. I like to keep stuff around for a little while. Okay, let's go to the overhead camera. Right here, I am looking at a little mini one color hood that I knit. And you can see that I've already joined into the round for the beginning of clue 3. And I've worked the neck rounds. There is some broken rib that is worked for, I forget if it's like 10 rounds or I don't remember the exact number for the dicky. But there's basically a section, I can hold it up right here, on the dicky that's worked in that broken rib right there. When you get to the bottom of that broken rib, before you go to work the short rows, what I did was work my technique called Lola's 2-timing technique. What Lola's 2-timing technique does is wrap your working yarn around a strand of Stitch Saver. Stitch Saver is 2mm hollow silicone tubing, and you wrap your yarn around that Stitch Saver so that when you are done knitting the dicky, you can come back and slide all of your stitches from your Stitch Saver onto a needle and then work the balaclava or like internal face mask on those stitches on the inside. It's important when you work this that you have your Stitch Saver held to the back of your work, just like I have it here. And you'll see as I'm wrapping my yarn around that Stitch Saver that I'm wrapping it so that the left leg of the stitch is to the front of the needle. And that's so that when we go to work that first round right there, we're going to twist that stitch to tighten it up so that you can't see it from the front of the work. You don't want this to be loose, any looser than it is. If you have already knit your dicky, and I have a feeling there's some of you that are going to say that you've already knit your dicky and you want to add that balaclava, what you'll do is just go along the base right there. And let me see, which one could I show? Oh, I can show it to you on this one over here. I actually have one ready to go with Stitch Saver right there. But what you'll do is on the inside of the hood, you'll pick up stitches all the way around that round that's just below the broken ribbing before you go to work the short rows. I find it easier to use Lola's two timing technique, but if you're going to do it later, then you'll just pick up stitches. On this one, because it was already finished, I picked up stitches all the way around. You just have to be careful to not end up like moving up a row as you're picking up those stitches. So I kind of like pick up the stitch next to it and pull a little bit to make sure I'm picking up in the right place. So what I did was set up this hood. This one's in the Wool Dreamers Mota, as if I had worked that Lola's two timing technique to show you what it's like underneath the camera, sliding those stitches onto the needle and then getting ready to work into the round. So let's go ahead and do that together. I've got a needle right here. One trick for working this inside is if you think that it is looking too loose and you want it to be tighter, just go down one more needle size than you used for the broken ribbing. Like make that just one needle size smaller on the inside of the dicky. So, sorry, I just do this without even thinking. I've got my stitch saver right here, and it's gone all the way around with that Lola's two timing technique. And now what I'm going to do is take the needle and put it into the stitch saver, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull that stitch saver, pulling the needle through. And as I get farther along, it's actually easier to do this if I leave a little room right there. And then I'm pulling my needle through right there. You want to be careful if you're pulling the stitch saver to not pull the needle off of the stitch saver. Sometimes it goes better when you push your needle than pull the stitch saver. But right now I got to get that extra slack out. And now I can kind of maneuver it where I'm pushing it along. And we are almost all the way around. You can see that this is why when I do all the video tutorials that I always have little minis for everything, because it takes longer to do anything that is full size, right? I just wanted you to really get an idea. And I actually decided that I really wanted one of these on the inside of this dicky because this is going to be my warm dicky. And I love this sagey green color. I know you guys, something's going on in the chat. And also I just said I love this dicky. Come on. We're grown-ups, aren't we? I thought that there would be more like Dickie and Bush jokes in this knit along. I'm honestly sometimes a tiny bit disappointed. Okay, so I've got all of those stitches onto the needle, and now what I'm going to do is place an end of the round marker, which I don't have with me right now. And now I'm going to start knitting around by knitting into the front of the stitch right there, just like that. Get that piece of, what do we call it? Schmutz? Schmeg? What do we call that when we have a little bit of something something on there? We know it's schmutz now for you Yiddish speakers. So I'm working into the front leg, going around right here, and then I will have all of those stitches on my needle ready to basically work a balaclava on the inside. You want this balaclava to be about 6 inches long, and that will ensure that it will cover your face. You can certainly put it onto a piece of stitch saver and try it on, which is what I did once or twice as I was trying to decide how long it should be. Now I know that there's going to be questions like, where are the instructions for how to do this? So on Wednesday, when the Mystery Knit Along was officially over, I took down, you could no longer purchase the Mystery Knit Along pattern, but now for sale is Into the Hood's Balaclava, Into the Hood's Dicky, and Into the Hood's Scarf. The Into the Hood's Dicky pattern has the instructions for adding that extra mouthpiece over the mouth. And if you already purchased the Mystery Knit Along, you got all 3 of those patterns in your library. So those instructions are in the Dicky version of the pattern. They're not in the Mystery Knit Along pattern because the videos didn't support it. So it didn't really make sense to do that. I will add this live to the playlist for Into the Hoods, and I'll make sure to like do a timestamp for that that tutorial in case you want to go over it. I've also already added the Lola's two timing technique. If that's a new technique to you and you want to go over that in detail, I kind of glazed over it a little bit because I know many of you have watched me do that before and I didn't want to like be too redundant with my information. So that is how you add the balaclava into your dicky so that you can have BDE just like me. And I'm going to throw that behind me right there. Now, what I want to say is doing mystery knit-alongs with you guys is a blast. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do next year. It is not going to be this crazy. I don't think it'll be a hood again. I think it's going to be time to diverge from hoods. I've got some great ideas from previous years for mystery knit-alongs, so I'm probably going to visit one of those. Sometimes partway through a mystery knit-along, I'm like, I should do one of these in the summer too. So that's a very good segue to the N Club. And for many of you know that I've had two clubs for the last 15 years. One is called the N Club and one is called Lola's Choice. The N Club was always bigger projects. It was a little more exclusive, like you had to buy in early and then you were in for the whole year. And Lola's Choice has rolling subscriptions. You can kind of do it for a while and get out if you have too much to do and then join again. And this year I decided to take a break from the N Club so that I could have a little bit of energy to focus on other things. I'm gonna have to get facilities up here with a hot glue gun because my felt balls are losing it back here. I'm not gonna be able to concentrate. See if they'll stay. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to do that every so often because I'm not going to be able to look at that. Those felt balls, can't trust them. Okay, so the N Club I'm no longer doing. I'm just taking a break to make room for new, which means I'm going to have time for some other things. But I did release the last pattern for 2025's N Club this year, and it is a beautiful cowl and headband called FLX Cowl and Headband. It is designed with a Shiniko wool from Cece's Wool called American U Tweed. It had two colors, one variegated hand-dyed and one like subtly solid hand-dyed. This gives you a really good idea of the beads that came in the kit and the fun little bag that everybody got and the yarns. Whoops, you weren't supposed to get to that book thong yet. Hi, it's like my first rodeo. Here we go. Going back. So there's the cowl right there that I'm wearing. It's knit in the round and then grafted together. The tube is grafted together. And there's the little headband. I actually wore it skiing yesterday, which was awesome. And then you've already seen those two photos. And I'm going to miss the N Club, but I'm super excited for a little bit more space. I feel like there's all these things I want to do, and then I have these commitments that kind of I feel really strongly about and I get to, but also with so much unknown around like duties and customs and costs, it was really hard to figure out how much to charge for it. And I know that last year everything just started costing more and I didn't want to charge anymore. So I just decided it was time for a break. So that's my explanation for that, but I will miss it. And one thing I thought I would tell you that's fun is these little beading dishes that N Club members got, I think in 2023 or 24, they came with Sativum cowl. And these are handmade by my friend Renee Baum, and they are the coolest little bespoke leather beading butlers. So Renee hand formed these. You like get weather wet and then you stamped it and then she formed them around blocks and then pinched three of the corners but left one open so that if you have beads in here, you can just pour those beads into your hand or back into a bag or whatever. And we've been doing some cleaning in the studio and we found an extra 20 of these that I just put into the Etsy shop. So when those are gone, they're gone. But I figured since I still had them and I'm kind of like clearing out things, everything from this year's N Club won't be available until next year. So like Scarfscape, which I know a lot of you are waiting for, will be available next like July, August. And I have a fun idea for that I think I'll have time to explore a little bit. So this now goes into the basket. Done talking about that. Woohoo. Um, Next up, Lola's Choice. So the November Lola's Choice kit used Blingola. And Blingola is a cotton kind of lace weight yarn that has sequins on it. And it has 6 millimeter and 3 millimeter sequins on it. And it is an absolute, what my friend Kate calls an absolute joy maker. Like it's hard to be in a bad mood when you're knitting with Blingola. It just like sparkles on your needles. It's everybody wants to know what you're knitting. It's just something, there's something so fun about it. And then the pieces are really fun to wear. So the most special thing to wear, I would say, would be this book thong. I hope nobody's actually making that and wearing that. So the book thong was a joke. We for like the last year and a half, people have been sending me videos about book thongs, and I was like, Lola is totally designing a book thong. So I did that, and then with Blingola, I also designed a little shrug or cowl, and that it has just the Pasquale on the inside of the neck. So those sequins are up against your neck. And then once you are done with the neck, you switch to the working with the sequins and the puno held together. And it's just got gentle yoke shaped increases for your shoulders. And then you bind off when you basically have just enough yarn to do the edging and bind off. And it's a sweet little shoulder piece. Um, this is Blingola scarf, and that is a boomerang shaped asymmetrical scarf. This photo shoot was so funny. We did it in my hallway on a kind of like crappy day, and it was like 10 in the morning, and I was not exuding party. And all of a sudden, we were like, let's go get my grandma's wine glasses. And like, we grabbed a spindrift that was a good color and poured that in there. And then someone put some music on, and I definitely really needed some music. So these photos ended up being really fun in the end, but it took us a little bit to get there. I was like a little kind of grumpy in the morning, and my new photographer, who I adore, was like, okay, these are not working. You need to like pick up the party a little bit. And music helped, which I appreciated. So there are Blingola kits in the shop. The Festy Vest that I'm wearing, this is the size 2, and I knit it with 2 Blingola kits. So basically like 2 cones and 2 balls. You could also knit it in there's a like a deep navy color. There's a gorgeous silver color. There's this burgundy color right here. There's the emerald color that I knit my boomerang shawl, like how I tried to tell Max I should wear like this and this to really bring the party today, but we decided it was too much, just a little too much bling. There's this lovely emerald color, and then there is eggplant. And the way that I found Blingola is last year at the holidays. I saw someone I follow on Instagram. Her name is Tony, and she knit a sweater with a yarn called Unicorn Tears that's available in Germany, and held it together with some cotton alpaca she had in stash. And it was just like the most fun holiday sweater. And I was like, I want to just do accessories with that. And it took me, I would say, a good 5 months to find a source for it. And then I ordered it, I think, in June. And it came in August, and we kept it like safe in the shed, wrapped up, so like nothing would happen to it. I was a little paranoid for like the period of time, but I wanted to get it early because I was worried that it was coming from China, and I was worried that like something would happen en route. And we actually got it here before like all that crazy duty stuff happened. I got really lucky that I was kind of like ahead of the game. What I've noticed is that a fair number of people also thought sequins were happening this year. And I feel like the market last year, no one could find the sequins. And this year there's sequins happening in multiple places. But I think that these sequins, like this yarn compared to, I got yarn from like 3 different manufacturers to test. And this was the one that knit up in the way that was just like the biggest party. And that is what we want. That's what Lola is all about, the biggest party. So those are all in the shop. And I heard Audrey said she wanted to knit a Tasca that was 2 different colors. And I was trying to figure out how she would do that. And I think it's that you'd almost have to like jacquard it and knit with one color going up to the shoulder, and then twist your yarns and then use the second color going back down the shoulder, because this is knit side to side, it's not bottom up. And that would be totally doable. You might end up wanting to do like a little like shoulder seam up at the top, like a little like crochet something to cover up that color change. But then when you get to the front and back and the split for the neckline, you could very easily be working across the front with one color. Sorry, going in the, nope, I was right. Going in this direction. Yep. Do the front in one color and the back in the second color. And then it's just when you're doing the shoulders that you would need to switch. So that's the thing to think about with side to side construction. I want to knit another one of these in a fun color that's maybe not sequins, just like an orange safety vest or something for when I travel so everyone can find me because I'm shorter than everybody else, it seems. Um, the next thing that got released since we've chatted last are the Gina pendant kits. So everyone in the N Club got a Phoenix pendant kit as part of their first shipment of the N Club this year. And then I did a short release of Phoenix pendants in the summer. And Gina and I kind of plotted what else we could do. And we came up with a few other pendant ideas. So we actually tried to do a Lola's Choice one, but that was like not really working. But we did the sun and a tree for Into the Hoods. The tree sold out like immediately, and I am going to order more from Gina, but I'm not even bugging her because she is an amazing potter, and holiday season, like this is when she is selling mugs and selling stuff, so I am staying out of her way until she's done with all of that. And then this is what the kit looks like. This is the red eye kit, and then this is the Lola's green eye kit. And interestingly, I have not sold one of the red eye kits, which I think is insane because it's my favorite one. And it's the one I've been wearing the most out of any of them since I had the Phoenix. It's definitely mine. And so I've got a few of those. One of these is going to be the giveaway for this live. I'm going to find some things to do with them. Sometimes my taste isn't other people's taste, right? I was like, wow, I'm a little offended, but maybe I'm just funky. I don't know. Everybody loved the tree. I love the tree too. More is coming. So that's the little story of Gina's pendants. Other things that are off my needles that I'm not going to show you right now is when I was in Florida last week helping my parents. I have a lot of time to knit when I help them because they get tired. Like we do a thing and then they need a break. And then I kind of have like my knitting time and I try not to work too much and just get some fun knitting done. I knit 2 baby hoods. I don't know if you remember the hood I showed you this summer that my friend's son Alder was wearing. He's like the cutest baby in the world. And I made him a hood that is a mashup of like Caltipus and Hoodola. And so I made that for him and it came out a little big. So I ended up sizing it a bit after I got it onto him. And I have knit, I'm gonna keep this up here. Actually, I'm worried it's gonna break. Not throw that. Um, I knit one in a superwash DK. I knit another one in Noro Ito, and I just got it back from tech editing. So there's going to be a testing call going out in my newsletter next week. And I'm looking for people to test knit it who have babies that they can try it on, because it's going to be pretty important to check the fit just to make sure that things are looking correct, that there's not any like major tweaks that have to happen. Babies grow quickly, so they'll grow into it, but I just want to make sure it like fits over their giant noggins because we know how big a baby's head is, right? So that's off my needles is 2 of those. And then the Lola's Choice January kit is off with the testers, back from the tech editor. Testers are having a great time. I know they're about to say something in the chat over here. It is warm. I get to teach you a new technique. We get to make a video. It's going to be really fun. We are working on building those in the studio right now, and I'm hoping to have them built by the end of next week because I want to sew over the holidays. Holidays are like break time. I don't want to be building kits. Everybody else is going to be off with their kids and their lives, so it's time to focus in and have some creativity. Lois says it's dang fabulous. Thanks, Lois. I love it. I actually almost wore it skiing the other day, and then I decided, oh, I don't want to say anything. I almost wore it skiing, but I decided it was going to be too warm for skiing. I don't. Shh. secrets. Lola almost messed up. If you aren't members of Lola's Choice and now you are intrigued, sign up. It's a really fun little kit club. It is fun to get fun mail and then learn a new skill and all knit together. Good times. Um, on my needles right now, I always do this like off my needles, on my needles thing. I have a starry light. So behind me on the wall are two circles of lights. I have a lot, like 4 patterns that involve knitting with light. There's starry light, there's love and light, there's circle of light, and then there's a crochet star as well. And Starry Light, I keep giving them away. The moment I make one, they get given away. So I actually have one on my needles because I really want one for our mudroom because it is like the most joyful thing to see in the window when you drive up. And I have a circle of light that's hanging in my office window, but I really want a star and I'm not giving it away. Period. Watch, I'm going to give it away when I see my friends next weekend. The other thing I'm about to have on my needles is I need a new pair of artichoke French mittens, and I'm going to see if I can add thrums to them. Some of you might remember me thrumming a few years ago before I went to Finland, and the thrum mittens I made actually had superwash fleece in them, so they all started pulling out and they look really bad. They're kind of embarrassing, but they're so warm. So I want to make a new pair, and I think it would be really interesting to do with artichoke French with that line coming right up the back of the hand. So I'll let you see those as those get going. And then I'm also in this little bag right here working on a one skein carte blanche shawl. So carte blanche was a shawl that was in the first kit of 2025's N Club, and it worked with Yak baby lace. You'll see some photos of me wearing it when we get into the Spain photos. And it used 2 skeins of Yak baby yak lace, and I want to do one just with 1 skein, and I'm using like the best color to knit with in the winter. I love, this is a great color. It's going to be so fun with a jean jacket, and I love the carte blanche, and she's big and beautiful, but I think it's going to be really fun to have a smaller one as well. It's funny because normally I design something small and then I decide it could be bigger as well, but I'm going the opposite with this one. So that's kind of my pick it up, put it down knitting right now. I'm having a blast with it. Next up, I could talk about the yarn that I found in Spain, and then we'll talk a little bit about Spain. I actually was quite controlled with yarn this year. When I went to Spain, with the group, I knew that I wanted to come back with presents for people because last year I didn't, and then I went to order them and the shipping cost more than the actual thing. So I went to Chocolate Amatelier, which is like a chocolate shop. They have a bunch of shops throughout Barcelona and Madrid, but this one that we went to is right by Casamila. And they have all of these different beautiful kind of like Art Deco retro tins with chocolate in them. Some are smaller, some are bigger. And I just basically filled half my suitcase with them. So as I'm seeing people for the holidays, I just brought tins to my parents, and some of my knitting friends are getting these because they make great knitting tins, like the best flat knitting tin for putting your notions into, and the top stays on really well. So if you find yourself in Barcelona, you can go there. I'll put a link to them below so that you have that. The other thing that I got for lots of people is this paprika. Some of you might recognize this paprika from a Lola's Choice kit years ago, where we I don't even remember what the pattern was. Someone will in the chat. But we also made cheese. Oh, it was from Manchalopi. It was Lolancha mitts and shawl. And then we got a little bag of paprika from these guys. It's Spanish paprika. And then we made like cheesy crackers that were so freaking good with manchego cheese and the paprika. And a lot of people made them and ate them. And I might be reminding you, there's actually a recipe for those on the blog. So I'll link to that below also when we're done with this. That's a yummy holiday. I used to bring that as my like holiday treat before I went gluten-free because now I can't eat them, so that makes me sad. Other yarn that I got is I got some Atena tones, which is what the answer was originally knit in. I'd never seen this color before, and I really like it. It's kind of like green and yellow. It's a little bit too yellow, But then I found this other glitter yarn because I'm having a glitter yarn thing that I'll see if I can find for a future something that is a kind of very small sequin, a small paillette. And those two held together, I think, would make something absolutely beautiful. This is a cashmere and merino wool, and I think a little bit of cotton. No, it's just cashmere and merino wool. So these two together, I think, would make something really scrumptious, but I just had to buy them. And we'll see. The design that I did for the trip is Barcelona mitts. So if you're in my Ravelry group, you've been seeing some Barcelona mitts that everyone on the trip has been knitting and kind of testing for me. They match the Barcelona cloche. They have fingers and or they have a fingerless version or fingered. Doing the fingered is futzy, but wear wise, I love a fingered mitt so much more than I love a fingerless mitt. This is Barcelona cloche, in case you don't remember Barcelona cloche. And the reason I'm showing them to you is because in January, I'll release the mitt kit. And I'm also going, sorry, the mitt pattern. And I'm also going to re-release kits for the cloche and the mitts because the same kit will make both. But the cloche was originally knit with this merino yak yarn from Wool Dreamers that we couldn't get any more of. It was like a limited edition run, and I bought all of it last year, and then you all bought all of the kits. But I realized that I could use Wool Dreamers Cautiva, and they have a Cautiva that's like literally the same color. So the aesthetic, like that lovely gray natural look, is exactly the same. And it works really well for the cloche and the mitts. So people can have a matching set. And even if you already got a cloche kit and you want to make a matching fingerless mitt kit, you will be absolutely fine to do that in the Cautiva since we can't get it any more of that. Or if you have a kit that you haven't made yet, you'll be able to use that for the mitts. So that's a lot of exciting stuff coming in 2026. Never not planning. The other thing that is at the end of this, I'll announce the winner from the last giveaway, and that is going to be for a skein of this I think it's 70 Varas is the name of this yarn, and it is a lovely merino, Spanish merino, absolutely gorgeous. It is fingering weight, and I did get 2 more skeins of this to play with at some point, but that's like literally all I got when I was in Spain. Very under control there because I'm getting into some sewing projects. Very exciting. And I know I've always said I'm not going to quilt till I retire, but my friend and I decided to sign up for a quilting class with another friend of mine this weekend. And we are going to make the Galaxy Twist quilt. I'm an overachiever, and so I am going to make the queen size quilt. And I'm saying this like you all are going to hold me to this. I'm only buying the materials for this quilt to make this quilt. When this quilt is done and back and bound and on my bed by, I'm going to say May or June of next year for the summer, then if it was really fun, I can think about what my next quilt will be. But I'm not going to start like stashing fat quarters. Our quilting store does this thing where you can get like one quilt fat quarter a day or something, and you end up with this like stash. I am not doing that. I'm not doing it. I'm going to be really good because I don't have room for fabric stash and yarn stash on that level. And those of you here who quilt know what I'm talking about. But I'm having a very, very, very good time working on plans. There is quilting software out there. I know that, but I just work in InDesign because that's what I use for my knitting patterns and charts. And so I kind of figured out how to make the square, and then I tiled 16 of them together because that's the size for the queen quilt. And then I've been playing with colors. And of course, because I have to be that person, I'm going to make the solid color in this print, and then the print fabric solid. And I got this gorgeous kind of black print from Rifle Paper Company. It was on sale. It was my only Black Friday purchase right here. I got 6 yards of this, and it's going to get cut up, so it's going to seem much smaller and kind of overall. And then, so that's going to be everything. I guys, I'm so excited about this. Thank you for listening. I needed to tell somebody about it. That's going to be all the black in here. And then the red last right before I went to Spain, there was a stash sale that someone had where they were selling all the Marimekko that they had collected for the last like 70 years of their life. And she had never sewn with a lot of it or done anything with it. She was just like a Marimekko fabric collector. For those of you who don't know what Marimekko is, it's a Finnish design company that prints its own fabrics. They have these like huge printers, absolutely amazing. They do that iconic like floral print. And I got this is normally like $90 a yard. I got it for $20 a yard. I got a few different lengths of different colors, but I'm going to use this as the red and that is the black. And then I just have solids. And I might meet with my quilt teacher and she might talk me into using just one color for the solids. I bought a lot of fat quarters in different colors, so I might end up with some fat quarters in my life. It might be that I decide to dial it down a little bit for the all of the other small squares in there, but you can kind of see where I'm going here. What do you think? Wow, I'm getting some wows. We'll see. This could be one of those projects that never gets done that my darling daughter Bella gets to have, but we'll see. And then I really want to make that jumpsuit. I'm all ready to go. I got the Ponte. It's washed and ready to go. And there's a bag my daughter asked for the holidays. Her birthday comes in January, called the Sandhill Sling. So I'm going to make her one of those. So boring. She wants it in black, but she is going to get some Marimekko on the inside. I got this really beautiful like gray and black. Another thing that I made recently, did y'all see the gift guide that I released this week on the blog? I always like to give you all some ideas of things to make. And check out this bracelet that I made over Thanksgiving. This is with Miyuki Tyla beads. Tyla beads wouldn't work very well for knitting because the hole in them is very, very small. I think you'd have to basically I have wire going through here right now. But I had gotten this kit from Mac and Rex for my friend, and I have to send this to her because she just turned 16 and she's quite the Swiftie. And so it makes bracelets that look like this, but they use like elastic cord, so you don't have to do like any metal finishing with it. And they have a whole video tutorial on how to do it. And it just looks like so fun that I almost don't want to send it to her because I want her to do it with me so I can make more of them. But I think I'm going to order more Tyla beads. These are those awesome Picasso beads that I love so, so much. But I could see doing a really long one of these and then like wrapping it around your wrist a few times. It just really like feels like me, like the colors are me, kind of goes with everything. I'm in crafting mode right now, hard. So I linked to these in the gift guide, and I'll give you a link below to the gift guide. Just like one idea, if you've got, some crafty girls in your life who like to do that kind of thing. I don't think it's hard. I don't think it would be great for an 8-year-old, but I have a feeling over like 12 or 13 could like really get it. But it's so disappointing when you get a kit for a kid that's like a little too advanced for them. So be careful with that. Spain. Spain trip was so freaking fun. What a blast. I do not have a ton of photos from Spain. I have a bunch, but I kind of ran out of steam after doing all of the photos and prep for Into the Hoods. And this trip, I didn't take as many photos. It was my second time doing a lot of what we did. And so I just kind of leaned into being there and being with everybody instead of trying to kind of like capture the moments to share again. I did get some really fun group photos as we went along the way. So this trip had 26 awesome, lovely ladies. Sometimes we do have husbands join us. This is one of my first trips in a very long time. that did not have any husbands on it, which is fine. I love when the husbands join us, but it was interesting that not one chose to come. And we started in Madrid. We did a lot of walking. I had warned people, but I think some of us in the group walked more than they ever had in a very long time. I hope they kept it up when they got home. Walking is so good for you. Madrid, loved the doors in Madrid, always and forever. I then we had a day where we went to Wool Dreamers in the La Mancha region, and these are their lovely sheep that they have right out front. These are the Spanish Merino. I don't know if you know, but Spanish Merino sheep actually was exported from Spain to Australia, which is very interesting. And then the Spanish Merino completely died out. So one of the things that they've been doing at Wool Dreamers is bringing Merino sheep back. Like they have a breeding program to get the Spanish Merino back in Spain, which is very interesting. And I think it's a lot of what this yarn is about, is that they're finally getting to a quality of Merino that's like soft and yummy. Let me go back to my pictures. Here we are at the end of the day. These are the famous windmills of La Mancha. Don Quixote, there's like all, Cecilia, our awesome tour guide, read us a section of Don Quixote where he thought these windmills were like horses, I think, Cecilia. I would swear I was listening. It was really funny, and it was great that she read it aloud to us as we were knitting and driving along. So there we are at the windmills. Um, on our way after we left Madrid, we stopped in this tiny little town that I had found. I was looking for somewhere to stop in between Madrid and Zaragoza to like have lunch and walk around. And it was a medieval village called Medinaceli. I'm not saying it with the correct Spanish accent. I'm so sorry. I forget how to pronounce that one. And it has one of the last remaining Roman arches in Spain. So here we are, and it's up on a hill overlooking a big valley. And it was such a cool medieval town. It had like the walls going all the way around it. I know we were all dreaming about like what it would be like to live in this medieval town. There were houses in there, like vacation homes. It was really sweet and fun to walk around. It was nice to have like a break from the city. I think we all really appreciated that. And as you can see, we had very good weather this whole trip. We got very lucky. This is up on the view. We were up at going towards the walled cemetery, the old castle. And Linda, who is on the trip, has this quilt coat that she made that I like really covet. And I just wanted to get a picture of it. But also, the view is so good, and it was very, very windy. So it really gives you an idea of what it was like up there. Absolutely beautiful. And I love her coat so much. Um, then we spent one night in Zaragoza quickly, and we wandered around and look at the tile on the top of that cathedral at night. This is one of the only pictures that I took in Zaragoza. And the buildings were gorgeous, and everything was just lit up. It wasn't quite decorated for the holidays yet, but really a beautiful night. And then we were in Barcelona. And in Barcelona, we went to La Sagrada Familia, of course, as everyone does when they go to Barcelona. And it was actually some of the scaffolding that was up when I was there last year was taken down. So it was kind of cool to see the progression, because they say that it is already done. Sorry, it's already almost done. I read the comments, which I'm not supposed to do. So there is another view of it looking up, and you can see that there's not a lot of scaffolding left. There were a few cranes working, moving some turrets into place, but it is an architectural wonder, and definitely one of the wonders of the world. And I hope all of you either have gotten to visit it or do get to visit it at some point. We also went to Barcelona Knit Festival, which I did not get very many photos of, but at the end of the weekend, we did get to take a great embroidery workshop with Nuria Picos. I finished the hood that I started embroidering in a class with her last year that I can show you underneath the camera right here. So this is my hood my hoodola I knit out of Snefnug, and I lined with some Liberty of London silk. And then I did just some really gentle, sweet embroidery on it. It's funny, I love this, but it's not very me. It's very sweet. And I'm a nice person, but I'm not that like tiny floral. I'm more of a big, bold floral. So at some point this might find a new home if I find that I'm not wearing it as much as my other hoods, since I now have so many hoods. Um, but it was really fun to do, and it's a great memory of the trip for sure. I love it. And that lining keeps it really, really warm. Where were we? There we were at that. So everybody worked on this embroidery, and learned how to do kind of pictorial embroidery where the picture was ironed, like transferred onto the fabric, and then we embroidered on top of it. And I have a kit to do at some point. And then the last day before the trip was done, we went up to Montserrat, which involved taking a bus to a train to a funicular up to the monastery. And then because I had been to the monastery last year, I decided to take my time and go for a hike so I could kind of get a view down of the monastery for everybody. And it was a great walk. I could have kept going forever. I have to, when I do stuff like that on trips, and I know I only have a certain period of time, I set an alarm on my phone so I can just enjoy myself. Like if I want to sit and knit, I can do that. If I want to walk fast, I can do that. If I want to take pictures, whatever. And then when my alarm goes off, I know it's time to turn around and come back. And what I didn't realize in this one is normally I think coming back is quicker, but it's actually easier for me to go up than go down, and it was quite steep at places. So it took me longer going down than I thought it would, but whatever. Live and learn. They saved food for me. There was still lunch. I definitely was not in I wasn't going to starve on that trip. So that was a highlight for me, getting to do that hike. And I'm actually wearing carte blanche in this photo. That's the two skein one. Remember I said that I was going to show that to you. And I'm loving it with the jean jacket. It's my fave. So that's just like a little tease of the Spain trip. It was very sweet. We did have one thing happen when we were in Zaragoza that put us all on edge. One of the women, one of my lovely knitters, Rita, when we were all went out on our own to do different things in the evening, she had someone try to grab her phone out of her hand as she was crossing the street, and she actually didn't let it go. He did not get her phone, which was amazing. Like he messed with the wrong, as she said, I did not say this, she said he messed with the wrong old ladies. They kept their phone, but it was a little shocking, and we all were, I've never had that happen to a group on a trip before. Spain is certainly known for its pickpocketing. And I think after that, we were all a little bit more on edge and a little bit like keeping an eye on each other. There was a little less like free wandering without being like, do you have somebody with you? What are you doing? Right? Like a little bit more checking in. I grew up outside a city. I'm so like city confident, but it doesn't mean that that couldn't happen to me or anyone, right? Like if someone decides they want, the reality is we are all walking around with $1,000 phones in our hands, and somebody might need that more than we need it, I guess. I don't know. It was a bummer. And I think it's important for me to not like whitewash all of my experiences because that's not real, right? But in the end, everyone was okay. It's just a little rocked everyone's worlds a little bit, and it is part of travel. So I see a few questions coming in, and I'm going to try to actually answer a few of them. So if you have more questions and you want to throw them in there while I kind of go back a little bit to answer some, then we're just going to get on to like what I've been reading and watching and listening to, kind of the end of our live, because it's been over an hour of me chatting. So I think I just saw somebody ask where we could find the Festivest pattern at. I'll give you a link below. I used my Tasca Vest pattern, which looks like this. It is a side to side Novus construction vest. So I used that pattern. I made the side two, and I did not add pockets to it. So those are the only differences that I made, but it's a pattern that is already out there. Um, I saw Susie say that there's a coordinating pillow for the Galaxy Twist quilt. Yeah, that you can make with your extras. So Susie, it sounds like maybe you've already made this quilt. Message me later if you think I'm going too rogue with what I'm doing for colors. Um, some people are agreeing with me on being careful with my fabric stash. I appreciate that. Um, Lots of love. Thank you. Oh, I read, someone said they read, Donna said she read In the Woods by Tana French while knitting into the hoods. I love that. That is a great idea. I think I saw another question, but just throw them up there soon if you have any questions that haven't gotten covered. Everything that I talk about will be linked below. And if there's something that I don't link that you're wondering about, just leave a comment under the video. And I read all the comments on my videos. So I'll answer that whenever you have it. So, in terms of like entertainment, I always share my entertainment with you at the end of a live. I'm a big reader and I'm also a big listener of books. And since I talked to you last, I have read and listened to a bunch. One thing I finished is Wreck by by Catherine Newman. I had read her book Sandwich, and Sandwich was like basically about a middle-aged woman. It could have been me who was kind of sandwiched between her grown-up young adult children and her aging parents, and how to navigate both of those worlds and like what your role is in it. And I really enjoyed it. I think it's really memoir based. And then she just finished a book called Wreck that my book group read, and that is about like a little farther down on life. I think her parents are older, her kids have had babies, and what her relationship with all of them is looking like, and with herself. Highly suggest both Sandwich and Wreck. If you enjoy kind of like they're fictional memoir, I believe. And then I tend to like listen to something a little heavier and then something lighter. And I do that when I read too. And then I listen to something heavier again. So then I listen to When in Rome by Sarah Adams, just like gratuitous rom-com. Great, loved it. That was my Florida listening, which is really important for me to have. It's I love visiting my parents, but you know it is lots of deep breaths, right? Lots of big smiles. And so having something to listen to that's like a real break and like kind of candy is always very good for my mood. Um, and then I have queued up The Correspondent by Virginia Adams, which sounds very interesting. So that's kind of my next one, a little bit more serious. I keep hearing about that. I'm not actually insanely sure what it's about, but I keep hearing about it. And so I'm going to try it. And then reading, because I read at night before I go to bed every night on my Nook. I just finished reading The Restoration Garden by Sara Blaydes. And I know that I linked to that in a email, like an email or two ago. Again, I'll give you the names below. That was really interesting. It was about an American landscape architect who gets hired by a elderly woman and her nephew in the UK. In like, it seems like it's in the not sure if it was in the Cotswolds or like just below the Lake District, to restore the gardens around the manor house. And all of the gardens had been like destroyed in the bombing when the Nazis were bombing England. And so I don't think it was that far outside of London because they could train into London. So I'm not quite sure exactly like where it was mileage wise outside of London, but a little ways out, like in the country. And so she was kind of trying to recreate. She was a landscape architect who was wanted to restore it to its original style of garden, and that's what the aunt really wanted. But she kind of uncovered all of this family history and lore and secrets, a lot of stuff around World War II. I really enjoyed it. If you like historical fiction and also have an escape, but also it was really meaningful. It wrapped up too tighty as a book will do. It could have been a sloppier ending or maybe a sadder ending, but they kept it a little light at the very end without giving anything away. And then because I read that, I get to read something fun. And so I'm reading The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros, who's also written a lot of like dragon sex books, little dragon porn. And then she also writes just like really good love stories. And this love story is a really fun and also sad in its own right love story. I'm really enjoying that by Rebecca Yarros. And then I've been watching on and off the Game of Wool. Plenty of people have covered the Game of Wool controversy when I'm not going there. And it could be so much better. We all know that, but I hate watch it. So I'm enjoying that. My friend has been getting an episode for me every week. And I actually need to catch up on the last like three. I kind of saved them to binge so I could hate binge at some point. Um, and then also because I'm trash, I'm watching All's Fair, the Kim Kardashian female lawyer series on Hulu. I believe it gets 3.4 stars on like Rotten Tomatoes or whatever it is. So I am not telling you that it's quality TV. It's problematic. It's a little trashy, and I am here for all of it. It just got picked up for a second season, so clearly there are other people who think like I do. Um, some of you might have seen the Easter egg in the gift blog, in Lola's gift guide blog. That's also Kim Kardashian related. I don't know if I'm having Kim week and then I'm going to be over that. That's a quick thing. Um, and then I also watched, I think it was called All Her Fault on Peacock. And I gobbled that series up. It's a real, like, kind of who done it. This little boy goes missing. You don't really know who. People keep dying. The acting, it was riveting. I was into it. I'll do anything and be able to knit. I'm not like not the best critic. I won't trash things very quickly. In terms of eating, I have just been kind of cooking my old classics lately. Like I made a yummy red lentil miso stew that I make a few times a winter with like potatoes and carrots and miso, and we had like fried shallots on it. That was great. That was like fed us a few times this week. I made a frittata with everything in the fridge. We call it fridge frittata. Gotta love a fridge tata. And then the other thing I made over Thanksgiving is I spatchcocked my first chicken, so that's exciting. Congratulate me on that one. And it was pretty good. I think it could have been crispier, but I'll work on that. And then I made a gluten-free Dutch baby. I found a recipe for a gluten-free Dutch baby, and it's one of the first gluten-free things I baked that's actually like really risen and fallen down just like it's supposed to for a Dutch baby, and it tasted really good, and we would all be happy to eat that for a Dutch baby. So I'm excited to start collecting gluten-free recipes that actually I like. So, I know, pretty exciting. Yay. You guys are congratulating me on spatchcocking the chicken or the gluten-free Dutch baby. That's what I don't know because there's always a little bit of a delay, right? So let's do winners, and then I'll give you your prompt. And when I give you the prompt for the winner that I will announce in the next live, don't leave that comment in the live chat feed where y'all are chatting away. Wait till the live is over and leave it under the comments of the video. So the winner of this skein of Spanish Merino is at Hirafa, Heraffa. And I had asked for the last giveaway what you had like learned in Into the Hoods that was new for you. And she said that she'd never done an I-cord cast on, and she's currently knitting the one color Dickie. But after seeing that little bush stitch, I might have to make a two-color version later. I feel like she could have made a Dickie bush joke for me. Disappointed, but you still win, Harafa. This is your gorgeous skein of green merino. So get in touch so I can send it to you. The winner of this month's live is going to win one of the red Lola pendants, of which I have a few in my shop. And I think once you have it and you wear it, you'll see how fierce it is, like with a black sweater or turtleneck. I've been wearing it a lot with a black linen vest. Like when I was in Florida, it was kind of like my strong statement piece. I thought it looked very cool. I had these little red earrings with it. It was quite the look. And in the comments of the video, not in the chat thread, tell me a gift that you are making yourself this holiday season. I want to hear what you all are making and who you're making it for. That would be really fun. Last year we made the mistake, or 2 years ago, of like having everybody post recipes of cookies, and then it turned out that links don't work in YouTube. Like YouTube was scrubbing them, so we're not doing anything with links. So I hope you all have an absolutely fabulous holiday season, that you celebrate every holiday, whichever holiday you feel like celebrating. I'm going to wear my Festy Vest on New Year's, even if I have pajamas on underneath and I watch a James Bond video that night. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen on New Year's Eve? Maybe I'll drag Max away to go skiing if there's snow somewhere. And then I can wear my Festy Vest while I ski. So happy holidays to all of you. Happy New Year. I will be back with another live in January, probably after January 10th, I would say. So that following week will probably be our live. Thank you so much. Happy knitting.